Welcome to Salaam Nerds Podcast. We do reviews and recaps of nerd culture, reality TV, and current events from this week.
Yo, it's Salaam Nerds. My name is Dean, aka Watch Me Dean. I'm here with my boy Chad.
We drop live episodes on YouTube on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. All episodes can also be found everywhere podcasts are found. Thank you to all our supporters. Please help us by subscribing and leaving a good review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yo, Salaam Nerds. This is your boy Neebs, aka Watch with Neebs, and I am here with a special episode for you today. Jazz is not here today, but we got something even more special. There has been so much going on with The Bachelor that we decided to give you guys a bonus episode this week. Woo woo! Welcome back to the show, April. April, how are you?
I am good. It is Sunday. It feels weird doing the podcast on a Sunday, but here I am.
I know. It is weird to be on the podcast on Sunday because you're usually here on Tuesdays. So I get it. It's a work day tomorrow. It's tough, but there's so much to talk about because we couldn't just leave the show after all this like juicy gossip came out right after the show.
Literally, as soon as we were done recording, it's like, did they plan that?
I know. It's like ding, ding, ding. Everything was coming out. So we're going to talk about it. But before we do, we have to introduce you to one of our guests. First time on the show, Sandalina. Sandalina, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be on.
Yeah. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself because you are here in New York. You have your own podcast and, you do a lot of cool stuff. So let us know. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So my name's Sandalina. I live in New York City. I work full time in finance. But the cooler thing that I do outside of that is I have a talk show called Spotlight with Sandalina. I'm in the studio right now for this podcast too. So basically what I do is one-on-one vulnerable deep dive interviews with South Asian Muslim creators in New York City, typically do 1 hour episodes. And yeah, it's all about lifting voices in the community and sharing vulnerable stories.
Very cool. Very good. I've watched a few of them. You've had Pradeep on the show, who is a Bachelor contestant. We've also had him on our show. So shout out to Pradeep. We love having him here. He got to put in his 2 cents about the show. He tweeted that what's it called? Devin basically gaslit himself. No, he love bombed his way to fame, and that's pretty much what he did. That was insane. I totally get that. So tell us about your history with the show. Have you been a long time watcher?
Yes. So I actually started watching the show, probably a decade ago when I was like in middle school. And I started on Sean Lowe's season.
Not appropriate.
Yeah, fair. I started watching Sean Lowe's season of The Bachelor, and I was very good about keeping up with it season after season. I think I fell off for a little bit sometime in high school, got back on the wagon end of high school. And then since I moved to New York, life has just been such a whirlwind that I haven't really had the time to like tune in with the reality TV world as much. But I did tune in for the finale for Jen because there was so much buzz on social media. She's the first Asian American Bachelorette. She's absolutely stunning and beautiful and very kind from everything that I've seen about her on social media. And I heard that she was done a disservice, so I had to tune in to form some opinions earlier this week.
Yeah, she was definitely done a disservice. I mean, the fact that like they were on the show talking about how she made history as the first Asian Bachelorette, and then to treat her in such a way is completely crazy because you want to benefit off the fact that she is the first Asian American person to be on the show, but you didn't protect her. They didn't protect her at all, which is wild because you can't claim to have done this great thing, but you really just like enabled all these people to hurt her. And one of the biggest things that I feel like they've done to put her in the crossfires of all of this is they did not cast men for her. They casted men for Daisy and Maria. Every single guy on the show was claiming they thought it was going to be Daisy and Maria. And I can understand why a lot of these men were not feeling Jen because that's not what their type was. 2 men have told her. 2 men who were in the final 4 have told her she's not their type. That's so wild to me. That's so insane. Sandy, what are your thoughts on that?
It's honestly really disappointing to hear that. So I'd heard that too recently after I watched the finale. I remember seeing that online. I was like, "Are you kidding me? There wasn't even a recast once the Bachelorette was not a stereotypical white woman."
Yeah.
I felt that from the beginning they had just set her up for failure, right? It's like exactly what you said. They didn't protect this like precious opportunity that could have been a beautiful moment for lots of East and South Asians or all children of immigrants, right, in this country. But what they did instead was they made a fool out of her. It's offensive to everybody watching. It's offensive to I think any Asian contestant that's ever been on this show, right?
Yeah.
And it's just really disheartening. I think exactly what you said. I feel like they threw her in front of the subway tracks, and they're like, okay, let's just see what happens. And she even maybe we'll get into this later, but I heard she even reposted this like TikTok. That sort of talked a little bit about like the struggles that she faced on the show. Like imagine being the first Asian bachelorette and not having the support of like blah blah blah, like the show you're on. So I don't know. There's been some shady social media interaction sort of corroborating the story, but yeah.
Yeah. April, what have your thoughts been, from seeing Jen in this limelight, in the spotlight, going through all of this stuff, but then also she has to put on this brave face because, they dangle this carrot of Dancing with the Stars in front of her, which to be fair, I think she is very valid for her, she's got to get something out of it because she didn't get a man out of it. So for her to just, go on this show and then have to post that, oh, I'm glad they showed this because Devin needed to see it. And I'm just like, the way it looked, I don't, Devin, sure, maybe, but I don't think she needed to be there. I think that was a little cruel. April, what are your thoughts?
I completely agree. She didn't need to be there to see that. She doesn't have to relive it. I think he definitely needed to see it, and for everyone else to see him watching it.
Yeah.
But as far as, again, not having men casted specifically for her, going through all that she did, and I remember she was, it was said that she found out 45 minutes before a plane was supposed to take off for Dancing with the Stars. So like she's running through the airport trying to get her to her plane. She didn't know she was going to be on Dancing with the Stars. So I'm really hoping she does well and has a great time and exercises out her trauma. That would be great.
Well, the biggest thing that everyone's talking about this week is the fact that they basically made it seem like, hey, we're not going to show you this scene because it would be horrible for us to do this without Jen's consent. And then they literally ask her for her consent and she says, do I have a choice? Meaning she literally did not give them consent and they showed it anyway. That's so diabolical. So you're trying to put on this impression. You're trying to gaslight the audience into thinking, hey, we would never do this if she wasn't okay with this. Mm-hmm. And then we find out literally right there that was never the intention. Like, that's so diabolical of the show. There was some producer in his ear going, make sure you get the okay. And he didn't get it. And they went ahead with it anyway. And that was insane. And I feel like, that's on Jesse too. I know you're just a puppet and you don't really have much to say, but like you were there, you asked her and she did not give you consent. You should have the foresight to be like, well, hold on. Let's make sure we get this consent before, just even to protect the show. Forget, say you were an evil person and didn't care about her feelings. Even to protect the show, you should be like, hey, let's make sure we really, really do get your consent. Instead of having her say, do I have a choice? And they're going, yeah, roll this. That was insane. Sandy, what are your thoughts about that whole thing?
I think it was a wildly uncomfortable situation. I just can't imagine being in her position. I think that's like insult to injury, salt on the wound for sure. And I was reading online, so I didn't watch Joey's season, but I heard they did not make him do that on his season finale. Like they did not force him to watch any sort of failed relationship with the contestant next to him. It seems like, so yeah, I think it was kind of like trauma porn, right? For the audience. So was not a fan of that.
That's so true. That's so true. Welcome to the show, Jazz. Welcome to the show, Jazz.
What did I miss?
Listen. So basically, we do our Salaam weekly episode, but this week we decided to do something a little different because there's so much stuff coming out about The Bachelor after the show airs. So we decided to do an aftermath show. So our Salaam Weekly episode will have a little bit of the aftermath in it. And basically, you know, we talked a little bit about the stuff we talked about last week, about Jen, you know, not wanting, when she was asked to, if they're okay with them showing her and the audience the proposal, she says, do I have a choice? And they did it anyway. That's what we're talking about at the moment. And
yeah, that was fucked up.
That was fucked up. But here's the thing, Jazz. So as this show, they're trying to portray that we would never do anything like this unless we have, you know, Jen's permission. Because honestly, they could have showed that scene beforehand and nobody would have thought anything of it, because they do it all the time. It's very normal for them to show the proposal and then bring out the people. But they made a point to say we would never show this without Jen. And what did they do? They showed it without Jen's approval, which is crazy, which begs to differ. They didn't care about her approval. They wanted to see her break down and show her in that little box breaking down while the thing is going on, because that's good ratings. But I think she was sobbing so uncontrollably that they actually removed the little black box and they're like, oh no, abort. It's pretty crazy. Jazz.
Yeah. Earlier in the week when we did this episode, I made my feelings known rather clearly, and this is just garbage, man. Like, I cannot believe they would do this to somebody. In fact, I'm looking online right now. Like, a lot of outlets are saying the same thing, that we need a break from the Bachelorette or the Bachelor. Like, this is just unacceptable.
The thing is, if you watch the season, it's just love bombing after love bombing after love bombing. And it's so crazy that someone can just do that with a straight face and then change their mind the day after. That is like, I don't want to say anything about these people because all we know is how they're portrayed on TV. We don't know them in person. But if this person that was shown on TV is who this person really is, and that's a big if, I would say that's sociopath tendencies. That's crazy that you could just do that with a stone cold face. That's insane to me. April, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So on earlier in the week, what I talked about was like kind of the stages of love bombing.
Yeah.
And how throughout the whole entire season, he was saying everything right. He was doing everything right. He was even emotionally vulnerable to Jesse Palmer, the host of the show. Like, no, I just love her so much. I just want it to work out. I'm so scared that it's not going to work out. And so in my mind, I'm like, what was that then?
Yeah.
Was that literally a part of the facade too? And just, you know, what little I know about my field so far, because there's still so much to learn, is that I think what Devin did is just so deeply rooted in insecurity. And that he has very little to no empathy. And that's just kind of like what we saw in the aftermath and just kind of all the little things that have been popping up. And it's just, it's very scary. And I feel so badly for Jen, because she, again, was trying to overcome the fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment. And it literally happened again.
I mean, she literally says that she has a habit of picking toxic men, and she picked literally like 3 of the most toxic men on the show in her top 4, which is pretty crazy. And then not only do we get like Devin saying all these things, like how the breakup was so difficult for him, we literally see him the day before the filming out at a rooftop party in New York with a bunch of random girls, and that drops. Sandalina, what are your thoughts about rooftop parties in New York City?
Look, I love a good rooftop, but what I don't love is seeing a man like that out there with women that are probably unsuspecting. No, I mean, I haven't watched like the full season, but was he one of the first people to say I love you? Is that because I know Jen made this video where she said in week 5. Was it week 5? Devin said I love you.
He did it very, very early on. There was another guy who said I'm falling in love with you, and they were like, oh, like there's all these like different like almost saying I'm in love with you, but without like I'm starting to fall in love with you, I'm falling in love with you, and then I'm falling in love with you, and I am in love with you, right? So there's like all these stages of like love.
Right.
I don't know which one he did, but he definitely did do one of them early on.
Right. Yeah. So my theory on him, and again, this is just watching the finale. And maybe it could have been hindsight, right? That's kind of influencing my judgment. But I did feel he was very disingenuous in the words that he was saying in his body language and demeanor. There was even one moment where he's meeting her family and he says, I love you to her, but he says like super rushed and like not making eye contact, like as he's getting in the car. There was some weird moment
Mm.
where I remember being like, do you really love this woman? And every time he had said in all the clips that I've seen before, the only thing I could think to myself is this man is a liar and he's also a bad liar. Like I think just from my experiences in person too, right? Like when a man is in love with a woman, dude, you know from his body language, from his eye contact, his demeanor, right? And I just the way that he was saying all the right things, but it was almost robotic, I think, as a viewer seeing it, because I didn't feel that he felt those things with his whole heart.
Mm.
Because I just think when men are in love, they act so different. Like you can even look back at prior seasons and see examples of men falling in love with the women that are very genuine and don't end, the next day over a 15-minute phone call. And it's just, I don't know. It felt like there was something different. And Marcus, on the flip side, for example, he wasn't ready or all the way there, but I did feel like a very deep sense of sincerity from his body language and posture and his tone of voice. So I don't know. I never really, he just didn't rub me the right way, Devin. He really didn't.
You have a better picker than me because I kind of felt for it. Like I was like, I don't like this guy. I think he's horrible. I think he's annoying, but Jen likes him and he seems to love her, so good for them. And that's kind of how I treat people in real life. Like if I think like a couple like is with like a girl is with somebody who's like a total douchebag, I was like, I find him annoying, but whatever. If he treats her right, she likes him. Who am I to say? That's usually my impression, and that's kind of how I was giving out to Devin. And then I was like, oh no, my instincts were right all along. So I kind of just like, I was like, it kind of was like, okay, great that I was right, but also like, damn, that sucks for her. And like some people just don't have good pickers. Some people are just not good at knowing who is like that. April, what are your thoughts?
So it made me think of when Sandalina was talking, it made me think of the episode of Hometowns where Devin and Jen went to go and meet his family, and his mom, who was talking to Devin and asked him, are you being sincere in this?
Yeah.
I completely missed that part. In which, like, mother knows best. And if she's literally asking her son, are you being sincere in this? Like, are you for real?
Ooh.
Because she probably knows his dating history. Probably jumping from woman to woman to woman so quickly. And I'm mad at myself for completely missing that, because you don't ask someone that if you know that they are a sincere person.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just kind of kicking myself for like going to bat for Devin so many times this season. But like the problem is, at least for me, and maybe you're the same way, like my love language is words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had to learn and be really careful about, okay, is this person being sincere in their words to me, or are they just saying things to get what they want from me?
Oh, yeah. For me, it's crumbs. I'm like, I'm so desperate. Just give me crumbs of affirmation and I'll just eat that up.
Please.
Sandy, well, what are your thoughts? I saw you nodding in the corner.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. I think I'm a bit opposite to what April said, and maybe I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm kind of the opposite. I actually don't. Words of affirmation are like great cherries on top, but it's probably the last thing I evaluate in my personal life, which is probably why, at least watching the finale, I was like, something's off, like with him and his body language. I think for me, what I look for is really just like reading between the lines of. I think body language is such a big one. I keep coming back to body language and like the sincerity in their eyes. They say the eyes is are the window to your soul. And yeah, in my personal life, words of affirmation, if a guy says something nice to me, I'm like, shut up. Like, I don't believe you. In my head, I would never say it. I don't believe you. Like, just shut up. Like,
I think you should say it out loud.
It's not very nice. That's how to lose a guy in 10 days. But yeah, it's just, are you actually showing up? How do I feel? How do I actually feel? Right.
Yeah.
I don't think Jen felt as secure as she was trying to convince herself and her family about Devin. Again, could be hindsight, could be my own paranoia, but I just felt like she was trying so hard to convince herself. And I think that's usually a sign that subconsciously, on some psychological level, like you don't feel that secure with that person. Even up to the last minute, we see that in the finale. She's not even sure until the morning of, right? Because that whole thing with Marcus, and then all of a sudden she's flip flopping, and I can't pretend to understand what that's like in such a high pressure situation where you're so close to an engagement. But I don't know. I think there were just so many signs, just from a purely psychological level, where I was like, I don't see this.
Yeah. Jazz, what are your thoughts about all of this stuff right now?
I mean, I haven't watched the show, so I can't
Mhm.
see these signs, right?
Right.
But based on what y'all are saying, like, you know, they say people with, like, you know, you and me, Neeb, specifically, where we have ADHD, we can pick up on these things very quickly, right?
Mhm.
Somebody needs more friends with ADHD, because then they can tell her, like, hey, these are problems. Like, I got a weird vibe. Like, it's a gut feeling thing. We do it all the time, and people don't know how we do it, but that's really what it is.
The thing is, which I think is really interesting, and Jazz, I think you could back me up on this, is that a lot of people saw through Devin. A lot of the guys actually saw through Devin, right? So
Yes, we did.
Sam M, no, I mean, like, even the guys on the show, like Sam M, Thomas. The only problem is these guys were also douchebags, so it made you not want to root for them. You made you want them to be wrong, because we had such a bad reaction to Sam M that we're like, okay, we almost started rooting for Devin to spite Sam M, right? And that kind of gave us a little bit of like that believability, where it's just like, okay, let's give Devin a chance. He's not as bad as Sam. Turns out he was worse. Like, who would have thought?
I mean, look, Neebs, I know we talk about that future show we're gonna do, right?
Sure.
Where it's us guys. And the reason for that is guys know guys. We know what the other men are doing. And unfortunately, very likely, we've probably done it too. Like, we know this stuff because we've seen it.
I think there's a show that I think everybody should go watch right now. And Sandalina, I think you should definitely watch the show. I think you'll really like it. It's on Netflix. It's called Kevin Can F Himself. It's a fantastic show about gaslighting and manipulation, and it's a comedy. It's a dark comedy. It's about a woman who's trapped in a sitcom. So she's married to a typical sitcom husband, like a Kevin James. And then the whole world kind of revolves around him, and everyone thinks he's funny and charming. But then the camera flips to her, and she's in the real world, and you can see how the things that he's doing that are funny and charming are actually like horrible. And it's such an amazing concept, and to the point where, like, sometimes you watch it and you're like, it shocked you to your core, because you're like, yo, some of my friends are like this, and you're like, this is how they probably are with their wives and stuff. And it's really haunting. Highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. It just started on Netflix. It was an old show. It was out in 2001. It was on AMC. Nobody watched it. It just came out on Netflix. Everyone's talking about it now because Netflix is just really good with their algorithms. It helps, like, the right show find the right audience. And I highly recommend the show. You'll watch the show and you'll never see the harmless, bumbling idiot sitcom husband the same ever again. It's kind of like watching like, you ever watch this thing? It's called Ross Without Laugh Tracks on Friends. It's on YouTube, and it's just all of Ross's scenes but without laugh tracks, and you're like, Ross is a maniac. He is insane. If you take the laugh tracks out, the things that he says and does are insane. And there's love bombing, there's gaslighting, there's all these horrible things that Ross does, horrible things that Ted Mosby does on the show. Like, if you take the laugh tracks out, they're terrible people. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, it's why I can't watch Everybody Loves Raymond anymore.
So that's the main show.
It's horrendous.
No, that's literally the show. They take Everybody Loves Raymond's set, and that's what they use for the set on the show. That's how accurate what you just said is.
Oh my gosh.
No. I highly recommend the show.
Also, I'm just gonna say it. Joey was way better for Rachel than Ross ever was.
Yeah, sure. Golden
Mhm.
retriever energy, but people love a Joey these days. I get that.
Mhm.
But back to the show. There's a lot of people outside of The Bachelor that have been commenting on it. Claire Crawley, who, as we know, has been manipulated and done dirty by this show more times than we can count, said in a tweet or in an Instagram post, "Oh, now you guys are calling out the show for manipulation, not the 1,000th time they've done it before." So I think that's a fair statement because they've definitely have done stuff before, but I think this is like one of the times where they just got caught in 4K. Like you can't escape that. You can't talk your way out of it and saying like she literally did not give her consent. You made a big deal about not showing it without her consent, and you did it anyways. And I think that's what makes this scandal a little bit different than some of the previous scandals. April, what are your thoughts?
It just kind of dawned on me, everything that you just said, Neeps, and then how Jesse Palmer went into his little empowerment speech. And
Yeah.
it's like, was that authentically Jesse
Mm,
trying to talk her through the whole entire thing? Because he knows that she's suffering.
yeah.
Um, I want to give Jesse the benefit of the doubt, man, because he's our
I,
empathetic king.
I think it's too late. I think Jesse's on the dark side now.
No,
He's turned over.
I'm so sad.
Sandlina,
Funny.
what are your thoughts about how Jesse was basically hyping her up and saying, you did this important thing, you're such a strong, independent woman, and now we're going to do something horrible to you? Because what I've learned, especially from talking to Black women, they said that like people think that calling a Black woman strong, independent is like this nice thing to say, when really what it does, it basically enables people to do horrible things to them because they can take it. And they tell people that like, hey, not all women are like this. We're not a monolith. Like some of us are soft, some of us are different. And it's very apparent. And I think like this conversation got really popular on a video that I did about the show Grownish. And I think they talked about it, and a lot of people stitched my videos, and they were talking about that. And I was like, it was so fascinating to hear them talk about it. And I see them kind of doing the same thing to Jen. They were like pumping her up to be this strong person, so that when they hit her with this like devastating blow, it will make her look good instead of bad. But they underestimated how affected she was from that. So I think that's
Mhm.
interesting. Sandalina, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I yeah, the franchise is disappointing. I want to believe Jesse Palmer is not intrinsically a bad person because my family friend is friends with him and literally makes him like Pakistani like food. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I really want to think he's a good. If he's having my auntie like family friend aunties like gosht and chawl like beef and rice, I really want to think he's a good guy. But at the end of the day, it's an industry, entertainment. One thing that I struggle with is understanding where exactly it is to assign blame, right? Like we can start and say the franchise is unethical, right? They
Sure.
lack common decency. And I want to get into the point you said in a second too. But I think about the role of entertainment in media and consumerism culture and appealing to like mass appeal, right? Especially in a country where people are not as intellectually stimulated as, in America. America's not really like that. The middle American doesn't think very much. I on one hand, I'm like, yeah, this show is horrible. But on the other hand, I'm kind of on the same page as Claire, where I'm like, is this a surprise? Like the
Yeah.
whole point is to conjure up entertainment so that people view and tune in. Like it worked on me, right? I haven't tuned in 2 years, and I tuned in. I reactivated my Hulu subscription just to tune back in, right?
They
So, like,
got you. They got you.
on one hand, they got to keep, their numbers up. So they're really doing their job. It's a screwed up job. It's an unethical job, and it's immoral. And I want to get into the point about that little speech that Jesse Palmer gave. So I don't know, April, if you feel this way, but I, as a woman, I always just get so turned off when any sort of man is just like, oh, you're such a strong, independent woman. And I'm like, first of all, I didn't ask you that, right? Did I ask you for validation? And
Yeah.
no. Second of all, it just feels so patronizing, right? It's like, oh, like, look at you, like, you go, girl. I'm like, just F off. Like, you're so annoying. So
Yeah.
I find those speeches just really irritating in general. But yeah, I'm not opposed to the theory that you laid out. But like, yeah, it's to build her up, just to break her down, right? Yeah, that's probably what it was. It's just disgusting.
So Jazz, since capitalism was brought up, how do you feel about the? If you don't know about the show, Jazz is very political.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
Jazz is,
We'll get along, Jazz.
Jazz is very political. So since the whole thing of capitalism, like that's how the entertainment industry works, right? This is how subscribers and subscriptions work. We don't have a situation where it's like, oh, you make these nice wholesome shows and people will come watch it. People, they want eyes on the show and they want butts in seats, and they don't care how they do it. Any publicity is good publicity. How do you ethically consume these kind of stories? Like, is it even possible in a capitalist society?
I mean, I know you've heard me say this before, and I'll say it again. There is no ethical consumption under capitalism. But let's look at Ted Lasso,
Sure.
right? Wholesome show. People watched it. Didn't have any of the negative stuff to it. It was
Mhm.
great. In fact, if I didn't have Apple TV through my T-Mobile subscription, I probably would have paid for it just to watch it.
Yeah, and if you didn't give me your password, I would have paid for it.
Right, yeah. So like the point is like there are ways to do it. It's just not the big way. It's not the easy way, and it's definitely not the common way to do it. There are other shows, like I know I watch a lot of like smaller creators on Twitch and YouTube, right? Because I'd rather support them directly than have them go through like a distributor or something. And so I think there are ways to do it, and we're moving further into the era where we're gonna have more shows like this that's not tied to a distributor, that's not just tied to the never-ending chase for the dollar.
Yeah.
But we just have to wait and see how that goes.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. I would totally support like a smaller reality TV show on YouTube that was a little bit more ethical. So yeah, I think that's good. Also, let's talk about some of the other stuff that's happening online. There's a lot of videos and TikToks going around with Jen and Jonathan. Do we think these are real? Do you think this is something's happening here, or do you think this is just a way to get some last ditch effort of getting more followers? What are your thoughts, Sandalina?
Oh, could you actually tell me a little bit more about what those videos are exactly?
Oh, so basically, oh yeah, that's right. You didn't watch the other. So her top 4 guys was Jeremy, Marcus, who's the other guy? Devin, and then Jonathan. Those were the top 4 guys. And then Sam M was earlier before. He was one of the other top guys. Marcus, he has allegations of sexual assault.
Yes.
Devin has said the N-word and has also been liking a lot of problematic Trump stuff. And then you have, I believe, whatchamacallit, and then you got Sam M who did that. Jeremy wasn't that problematic, but then you also have Jonathan. Jonathan came out of the show clean, like he unscathed, no drama, nothing no backstory, nothing on Reddit about him, super clean, only good guy in the show. She dumped him after the overnights, and people were very surprised, and basically now they're talking, they're doing a bunch of TikToks together, doing a bunch of dance videos, a bunch of trends, and people are suspecting that they may have started talking again. Kind of similar to how people thought what was going on between Tyler Cameron and Hannah Brown after that stuff happened with Jed. So that's the kind of stuff that happened. It looks like they're recreating that.
Interesting. So this is Jen with one of her former contestants, the only good one.
The only good one, yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I think so soon after the finale airing, I think that timing seems a little bit disingenuous to me. With Tyler and Hannah, it was a very different. I was very closely following this. This is like my COVID chronicle.
Yeah.
It was a little bit different. So much time had passed. The first time you'd seen them together was actually through paparazzi right after the finale aired. She spent the night at his place, and then he was with one of the Hadids after that, which was super annoying. But I think, yeah, I don't know if I really believe this whole Jonathan Jen reunion thing. If it is, from what I'm understanding correctly, just the timing, it's probably just like some fun publicity stuff. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, if you see me on a reality TV show and you see me making a bunch of TikToks with a former contestant, it's for the views. I'll tell you that right now.
Yo,
For the
there's
views.
a picture I have that I can probably post soon.
I know. Jazz has the pictures.
Oh god, no, attention is currency, guys. So it's not a crime. But you know,
Listen,
yeah.
we need viewers. Oh man. Yeah, so we have that, and then let's talk about the other thing that happened, which is big because we did see Jen mention Maria on the show, and one of her big thing was that he followed Maria a day after they broke up. Which, number one, I'm not gonna lie, kind of weird on both ends. Like, number one, Devin, why are you following somebody that your ex definitely does not like and is a little bit insecure about and not friends with, just to spite her? Number two, Jen, how do you know? Are you going through his things and checking? Like, whoa, girl, like, yeah, how did you know?
Okay, in her defense,
Okay,
likely somebody online saw it and just posted about it and blew up, and she saw it.
but the day after they broke up, like no one knows when they actually broke up because they broke up during like before the show started airing.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I
I
mean,
know.
that's the power of the Reddit pages that are in existence for
So
the Bachelor franchise.
Is she just chronically on Reddit? Like,
No, I think
yeah,
Reddit.
I actually would say, like, she may not be looking for Devin. She's probably looking up her stuff. Like, what are people saying about me? And something like this shows up. And then she'll be like, oh, he followed her on this day. This is the day after we broke up. And then that's how she made that connection.
But okay, then who is this weirdo random person who basically is checking who everyone is following while the show is going on?
You know damn well these fans exist, all right? You have like all sorts of accounts for this stuff.
They're on Reddit.
That's crazy, because like you have to physically go on the person's thing and then type in the other person's name to see if they're following it. That's a lot of work.
Bachelor Data does that, right? They do that like all the time. They do follower count checks and see who's following who, and they do it with their commercial platform. And I'm sure lots of people that are, just kind of maybe on their computers a lot do that for fun too. But I don't know.
I don't think it would have been that bad if he followed her like a lot sooner. Like he was like already following her when she was on air or something. But the day after, like that is precise information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. How do you guys feel about Devin and him following Maria right after the breakup? Would you be mad if your man did that? Followed some girl that you didn't like right after you broke up? She's like, too close to home. Why you gotta bring that up? No, I can see that. April, what about you? Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I always have so many thoughts on these subjects. So tell me when to stop talking. I could go forever. But I think first of all, even if let's put ourselves in Jen's shoes, even if it wasn't like some random Redditor that brought this to her attention, like even if it was her, I think that's okay because she went onto a show predominantly for white people, probably knowing that the people that were cast were not specifically for her. She's not getting the consistency that she deserves from her freaking fiance, somebody she's supposed to walk down the aisle to one day, right? And has already introduced her parents. He's hot and cold. And the first thought as a woman, or maybe as a human, I don't know if you guys feel this way. The first thought is there somebody else, right? That in a human situation. Now, if you put it in the context of the Bachelorette was supposed to be some like stereotypical white woman. Yeah, my first thought would actually be, did he come on for Maria or Daisy? Am I just not what he wanted? Did he just... So actually, I would be proud to claim that I would check the next day. I would be that person that looks the next day and just wanting to see if my theory is confirmed. Would I check every day for the rest of my life? No. But I think there would be a period after which I'm trying to look at social media activity and trying to just get clues to piece together the story. So even if she found it herself, I think power to her, and social media is public for a reason. Don't make a habit out of it. It's not healthy at all. But but no, screw Devin. That's awful. The fact that she doesn't like her, isn't friends with her, and the fact that the Bachelorette was supposed to be her, right? That's like 2 layers of complexity. So yeah, that's a no in my books.
The thing is, he's not the only one that said that. We had Sam M say that to her on radio during a date, which also very bad. But then Marcus also said this to lately. He said that he thought that Maria was going to win, and he was hoping that Daisy was the Bachelorette. For that to come out is pretty bad. April, what are your thoughts?
Oh gosh, it's just one big mess.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of why we're seeing this with Grant being the next Bachelor and how they announced him so early, and they're actually looking for people who actually want to date Grant.
Which is how they should have done her season.
Exactly. Exactly. And
so they can do it. They just chose not to.
Yeah. Yeah. They chose not to. They could have, I said it in this past week's episode, they could have aired Golden Bachelorette first, and then they could have been filming Jen's season while the Golden Bachelorette was, being aired or something. And actually, handled her season with care and took care of her. But no, instead we got the opposite. And to Sandalina's point, I wrote out what love bombing was and what all the phases were, and that literally in the days following up the finale, we saw the discard stage through both what came out about him following Maria, but not only that, he's going to rooftop parties with all these random gals 2 weeks after he dumps Jen on the phone because he's so heartbroken.
Can't he live? Can't I live? That was
can't I live? Just can't I have a life? Oh, please. And so it's just, we literally saw love bombing each and every phase. The idealization phase was the show. The devaluation was probably the month or so after filming ended. And then the discard phase of following random people, big people on social media. And so, yeah, it's just one disappointment after another.
Yeah. So Maria came out and she finally had a response to it. And she said that a few things. Number one, she was like, she's not friends with Jen anymore. But she was like, hey, my name got brought up and, Jen is, totally allowed to do that. I support her, blah, blah, blah. But I did not know that Devin followed me until someone pointed it out. I did not follow him back. I have no intention of following him back. After watching the season, I would never talk to him. So Maria kind of like coming off pretty good. I think she pulled it off pretty well. I don't see any problems with how she reacted to that, even though she was caught with Jeremy in a club. And people are saying, well, if you're out clubbing with Jeremy and then Jeremy is out clubbing with Devin, are we going to put two and two together and say, hey, there's a chance that you were also partying with Devin? And she went out and set the record straight and said none of that was happening. What are your thoughts on that, April?
I've always had a love-hate relationship with Maria.
Yeah.
Kind of, for example, when Joey's season ended and how she's going on all these podcasts and essentially saying that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Neebs, but she was essentially saying that the role of Bachelorette was hers to lose.
Yes.
And it's, again, it took away Jen's shine.
It did.
And
the whole for being the first Asian Bachelorette because the white girl didn't want it is wild.
Yeah. And so I don't know exactly what happened with their friendship because I thought they were pretty tight on Joey's season. But yeah, I think she handled this as appropriately as possible. She didn't overstay her welcome as far as, sticking up for herself, but also sticking up for Jen. I personally don't think she said anything incorrect. But then again, maybe I'm missing something like how I missed everything with Devin. I might need therapy for it, honestly.
Sandalina, what are your thoughts about the whole Maria situation and how Maria handled it?
Yeah, so I did actually watch that TikTok all the way through. It was a couple minutes long, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was unbothered. There was nothing that bothered me about her response, right? It was fine. She addressed everything head on. It was clear to the point. She answered all the follow-up questions that could have potentially come up. And then she moved on. So I was actually, yeah, I was like, that was an objectively good thing to do, right? She also stood up for Jen. She could have easily said, I wish my name wasn't brought up. Why is my name being brought up? But she had a
Yeah.
moment of empathy, and she's like, guys, don't come for Jen. This is not so I respected that. But April, I want to echo your sentiment. I actually had a similar feeling. I was like, well, you know, and again, I didn't watch Joey's season. But I was like, Maria in this video is good, but I swear a few months ago I saw something on Call Her Daddy where I just wasn't really rubbed the right way about the way she talked about the Bachelorette situation. What you're saying brought back memories of what I would think I saw in that podcast clip. So, on a human level, neutral probably is where I'm at. But yeah.
Fair, fair. So the one last thing that I wanted to talk about was that after all this stuff happened, and Jen said that he basically was cold the next day and did not want to work on things, did not want to go to couples counseling. Devin decided to release the text messages and then delete them. And to my point, there is literally no reason to post text messages and delete them. Like, obviously people are going to find them. And if you're doing that, that tells me that it's a move to get followers, because what happens is when you post something, then delete it, people are like, oh, what is he going to post next? Oh, I got to be able to watch it before it gets deleted. I got to see it. And so he'll get a rush of followers because it's like a train wreck. People don't want to miss out on the rubbernecking, right? I think that was a shady move. Either post the text or don't. Don't try this, oh, but I deleted it kind of bullshit. I think that was weird. First of all, it's a story. It gets deleted in 24 hours anyways. So I thought it was shady. I thought he didn't need to do that. But the second thing I want to say is that, did your opinion change after seeing the text? Because it does say that she wanted to break up with him also, which was not mentioned before. And then she says, well, she was in the heat of an argument and blah, 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 and she didn't mean it. What are your thoughts about her text messages? Both about Devin posting them and what they actually said. April.
I'm actually going to pull up just to kind of remind myself exactly what was said, because I think I read this while we were recording the last episode, because I was smart and I grabbed them from Reddit before they could be pulled down or something like that.
Yeah.
I lurk on Reddit. I do not post because you never know. Some tea could be spilt and I need to know about it.
I can't post on Reddit. You need karma points, and I don't even know how to get karma points. I made a Reddit account and I was like, oh,
other things, and then people upvote you. That's karma.
So like, how do I post? But I can't post things in that.
You can comment.
No, I can't comment without karma, and I can't post without karma. So like, I don't even know how.
Go to a different board and get karma.
I have to do it at a different board. Oh man, they're so strict in the Bachelor board, man. I was like, I got to get 175 karma points just to like leave a comment.
Okay, so I refreshed my memory.
Yeah.
So as far as Devin posting them, I think it was one to your point, Neebs, about he probably, one of his motivations was to like try to get some engagement on his page, because if he's smart at all, who knows, that he knew that people would frolic over to his page to see if he would post anything else. But also, I think he was also trying to use these as a way to gain some sort of sympathy. Because in one of his text messages, he said that I'm always falling short of your expectations. You are the one who acted the way that you did on the show. No one made you do that. You set the expectations yourself. So of course, when Jen comes off the show, she's going to expect you to be this way forever.
That's so true. That's
and plus with Jen's response of, oh yeah, I said that at the heat of the moment that I wanted to break up with you. She probably knew that he was completely different. And so I wonder if he like tried to like change her mind of breaking up with him because all of a sudden, oh no, now the chase is back on, and I need to kind of manipulate the situation in order for her to get her to stay for the sense of my own ego.
Mm.
Jen's
buy
not
that.
dumb. She knew something was up, but then he kept playing games with her.
Yeah. No, that's valid. Sandelina, what
Also,
are your
I just saw
thoughts?
the message. Is it really just the 2 text messages
Yeah,
between
just
them and
those
that's
two.
it?
Oh,
Yeah, it's only those two.
Really? Just 2? All right, Devin.
Yeah.
Good job picking and choosing.
Yeah,
Right.
true, right? He didn't show all of it. Yeah, Sandelina, what are your thoughts about the
is
text
this?
message?
I just want to make sure I'm looking at the same one. Is this the one where she says, "So then, why did you want to talk to me in person today in the first place?" Is that the same one?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, and then April, what were you just referencing? Because you said something about something about Jen saying, "Yes, I know I said it earlier. I wanted to break up with you." Is that a different?
There's
So
two.
there was, let's see. So there were 2 screenshots. And I think in one of the screenshots, I think it's the second screenshot, he said, just last week, Friday, you said we should break up. So he was telling her, like, well, you kind of wanted this in the first place, didn't you? You said that before. I really took that to heart because I've been having doubts about our whole relationship. Really? You didn't you went to Jesse Palmer in tears, groveling at his feet. Please, I need to talk to Jen.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah, I think given the context, Devin's incredibly manipulative and has a massive victim complex for sure. Yeah, very dishonest. I think I've been I've known men like him in my life, and what they do is the tactic is to get things really heated and put you in a position where you're the one that wants to leave, right? But then you kind of calm down and you're like, okay, maybe we can make this work. And then they turn that against you and try to convince you that you wanted to leave, so you're the reason this isn't going to work out, right? So it's really just flipping the blame onto the other person and then making them feel like it's their fault that it's not working out. It's a very manipulative, narcissistic tactic that has been used far too much. And I think he's just doing it on the internet to get sympathy and followers. And it's disgusting. He needs help for sure.
I used to be married to someone like Devin, only
Oh
I
my
didn't find
God.
out until after I said I do.
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm in a much better place now.
Okay, good.
Yay.
Yay, we love that for me. But yeah, it's the whole entire manipulation tactics of like trying to reverse the script a little bit.
Mhm.
Mm.
I remember when everything in my marriage was just falling apart, and I actually confronted him on some things, and he looked at me like, were you given a script? Like, you never talked to me like this. And I'm like, answer my questions.
Mm.
Like, I had enough at that point. So I'm just glad that Jen figured this out now rather than later.
Yeah.
Even though it still sucks that she's going through this, but I'm just glad that she didn't say I do.
Yeah, that's a good point. And thanks for sharing also.
Mhm.
No, it's definitely patterned behavior, this sort of thing. So it's not a surprise. It all adds up. Like the lack of sincerity, the comment you said that his mom said, everything just kind of comes together to, this is maybe just somebody that's been inconsistently not good in relationships. And I'm curious, have any of his exes spoken up on, like, do we have any data points on history?
That's the other thing. So this girl made a TikTok about how he bullied her in high school. Did you guys see that one?
No, I
Yep.
didn't see that, but it
No.
checks out.
Yeah,
That
he
checks out.
bullied some girl, and somebody left a comment on my video saying he knows somebody who went to high school with Devin. Actually, no, he didn't say Devin. He didn't actually say a name. With one of the guys who I think he's referring to Devin because it's a video of Devin, who everyone said was a horrible person, and he's so happy that everyone else is seeing that now.
People don't just wake up and be bad. It's usually pattern behavior from their childhood. So
Yeah.
that sounds right.
Mhm.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So much tea has been coming out. Is there anything we have not talked about that you guys want to mention?
So I remember sending you, Neves, and I'm pulling it up right now, that So Katie Thurston, she was one of the COVID bachelorettes.
Yeah, shout out to Katie. She was actually a friend of the show. She posted my Pakistan flood link. I remember. She's a good person.
Oh,
Sweet Katie.
We like Katie.
The way I determined who I would want to get to know from the franchises, would I want to get a cup of coffee with them? Katie's one of them. So, but she posted a comment saying the sad part is so many people behind the scenes did actually try to stop this, but their voices were ignored all the way to the top.
Wow.
So I think some of the, kind of the lower level producers and, the kind of the frontline workers of a production company were trying to stop this from the sound of it.
Yeah.
But it was the heads of the beasts that were like, no, this is a great idea. Let's do it. Let's, it'll get people talking. Hooray.
Well, they did mention a few things. They got like sensitivity coaches and racial coaches for the show. And it looks like they probably were the ones saying, hey, this is probably not a good idea. And they elected to ignore it. Valid. Great point. Sandalina, is there anything that you want to bring up that we didn't get a chance to talk about yet?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this like super briefly in the beginning. I just pulled it up. So I don't know if this is still in Jen's reposts, but I saw that this was like going everywhere and I have screenshots of it. So it's this TikTok where somebody's like POV, kind of like putting themselves in Jen's shoes and explaining like why this is all bad. And I'm just gonna read out. It's like 7 slides, but I won't read out the whole thing. And this is the first slide. I don't know if anybody saw this on social media already.
Oh yeah, I did see that. I thought it was by her.
It was somebody saying, Jen, you deserve better. And then she allegedly, I didn't see this myself, she allegedly reposted this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But, kind of the main sentences to highlight here are, imagine being picked to be the, first Asian American bachelorette. And everybody's first reaction is, they wish it was somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Then, the 2 girls you were a friend with go on podcasts, talking about how they were supposed to be the next bachelorette. You're going through a breakup. There's an NDA. You can't talk about it, but people think you're the worst bachelorette. People from your season unfollow you, blah, 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 horrible stuff. You speak to your mom in Vietnamese on national TV and everybody criticizes how well you speak it, even though it's probably like the first time anybody's heard Vietnamese on the show. Then, you're watching the show and you see, this was interesting because commentary on the franchise. You see that there are men with multiple men with allegations, and you realize that the producers did not do proper background checks. Second to last one, this is really interesting. To then have the host ask, should we watch the finale? When it's obvious you don't want to, when Joey wasn't forced to the previous season because it was too hard to watch, but they still, forced you to watch it anyways. And the last one, the most powerful one, I think, and to not even get an apology from the Bachelor franchise. So I think that kind of speaks for itself, kind of like a mic drop, to wrap up the whole situation and tie a nice bow on it is, Jen kind of has quietly agreed to a lot of what we talked about on this episode. So, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So, Jazz, what are your thoughts about the Bachelor?
Last season, I said we should stop watching it. Season before that, I said we should stop watching it. Season before that, I said we should stop watching it. My opinion has not changed of the show. I'm not going to start watching it, and people should stop watching it.
And listen to our podcast because we watch the show so you don't have to. And
Exactly.
Jazz is your point of view, so it works out perfectly for us. Listen, before we go, I want to thank everybody for being on the show. So much of what you said is so interesting and refreshing to hear, and I really loved getting your perspectives. Sandalina, before we go, please tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, thank you for asking. You can find me anywhere that you stream your podcast talk shows. YouTube is where we have the visual, so I would recommend just looking up Spotlight with Sandalina. It's on this side. Sorry, it's mirrored. Spotlight with Sandalina on YouTube. We're also on Instagram and TikTok with clips, so Linktree/Spotlight with Sandalina. And yeah, my name's pretty unique, so even if you look up just my first name, maybe you'll be able to find it. So So
Awesome.
yeah,
Well,
tune
thank
in.
you so much for being on the show, and we'll definitely have you back if you get a chance to want to come back and talk about some more reality TV.
Oh
Let
my
us
God,
know.
I'd love to. I would love to. I have so many thoughts. I just don't have the time to watch it, but I'll carve out time. This is
All
because
right, let's see. Listen, if you want to watch this Mormon show, let us know because
oh my God, I don't know about that. But I'll I'll get the recaps from TikTok hopefully.
Yeah, I got you. I got you on the recaps, but oh my God, it's spicy. I already watched the first episode. April, where can people find you?
I am on Instagram at Allure with April. I am very busy with my work, but when I have the chance, I speak nonsense about trash television on my Instagram feed, mostly on the stories icon. But are we recapping the Mormon Wives show?
I think we
Yes, we are.
should. I've watched the first episode and I learned about what soft swinging is. So that's very interesting. That's something
Oh,
I didn't know about.
oh,
The Mormon religion is a fascinating religion. So it's really, really interesting. Because
you guys should watch.
a lot of the things that these women do to be fair is not within the Mormon church. They're kind of just like, some of them are like acts, some of them are not practicing. So it's a mishmash of different religiosity levels of Mormonism, but it is still very fascinating. Sandalina, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say you guys should watch Book of Mormon on Broadway.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, I've seen that.
hilarious.
Fantastic.
Hilarious. Yeah,
Fantastic.
good one.
Oh man, I've seen it. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere podcasts are found. We are on YouTube. This episode will be up soon. And until next time, guys, Salaam, nerds.
Peace.